Hi, in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at Emacs side windows so that we can have a side window we can toggle on and off to show a diode buffer. Now I got this bit of code from prots video about Emacs window rules and parameters, display buffer A list and extras, and I've tweaked it a bit to do what I want. So what I'm going to do is switch across to Emacs over here, and I'm going to toggle this keyboard shortcut. So if I type Control X WW, what you'll see is it's toggling a sidebar on here, and I can press Control X 0 O rather to switch buffers like this. So if I come across the desktop, we've got a file here called test. Now if I open this normally, if I just press return, it's actually going to open this text file in this side pane. What we actually want to do is open the files from the diode buffer in this pane over here. So I'll show you how we do that. So if I close that, what we can do is there's two keyboard shortcuts we can do. We can either do G capital O or the easier one, which is Shift Return. So just press Shift Return, and you'll see that it opens this file in the main buffer. And close that. And what we've also got is a built-in keyboard shortcut called toggle, that will basically toggle the sidebar on and off. So the keyboard shortcut for that is Control X WS. So Control X WS, Control X WS will toggle sidebar on and off like that. Now, if I come across to a Git repository, hang on, let me just show you one thing about that. When I'm doing this, what happens is it's opening to the default diode buffer, which is just set to your home. Okay, so it's not actually matching the directory we're in here in the terminal. So if I come across to my dotfiles, which are actually a Git repository, and I type WXW, hang on, you bastard, WX, there we go, Control X WW, what you'll see is it's actually opened the diode buffer to the same directory as the dot files. So I can switch across here and show the hidden dot files like that. And then I can press Shift Return to open them. And what you'll notice sometimes is that it will actually open in a split for some reason, which I haven't figured out. So the other thing is, if I now hide that with Control X WS and switch across back here to the terminal, and if I toggle the side buffer on, what it's going to do is actually going to show me the previous directory. So as you can see there, it's showing the directory that I was in previously. But if I type Control X WW, it's going to open the default. So it does actually remember the directory that you're in. So if I hide this and switch across here and then show it, you see it's actually showing the previous directory. So the way we get around that is just by typing Control X WW, and it's going to open it. If I can remember the keyboard shortcut, it's going to open it to the directory of the Git repository, basically. So we can switch between these using Control X, Control O, like that. We can kill this buffer by Control X K. You can see it's hidden. So to show the buffer with the sidebar, Control X WW, and to toggle it on and off, Control X WS. So the keyboard shortcuts are basically in the same position for your fingers, so it's nice and easy. So Control X WS, toggle it on and off. And when we switch to a new tab with a different setup, in this case it's a Git repository, rather than toggling it on using Control X WS, which will show the previous one, we just do Control X WW, which sort of recreates it as a new one, so it's in the right place. Hang on. So if I now switch to another Git repository, I'll do the same thing. This isn't a good one because it's actually a listing, but you can see it's actually opening a dired listing here. The other thing I wanted to mention was, if I come through and just close this, is actually in dired here in the buffer, what you'll see is two things. By default, normally it will have something like, say, free space available and, several hundred gig or whatever free space you've got available here. And also by default, it will show the mode line down here. So what will happen is it will show sort of, part of the mode line down here, but it will be cut off. So what I've done is actually hidden the free space available here and actually set the mode line to be blank down there. So what I'll do is actually show you how I did that. So let's come across to config emacs init.el. So this is a bit of code that I pinched from prot, and what we've got here is let's just increase the file size a bit, the text size. So we're defining a function which we've got a name prefix here. In his version it was prot, but I've just changed it to my window dired vc root left interactive. And what we've got here is let dired if equals vc root directory. So what this is doing is this is checking to see if the directory is a directory under version control. And basically, if it isn't, it just shows the default directory. But if it is, then it will show the root directory of the Git repository in dired. And now this is the section here, dired buffer in side window. And what you've got is various options like the side that this is displayed on. So left, bottom, right, top, I believe. And then you've got slots. And what slots are is if we had this split at the bottom, suppose we had this a split at the bottom here with 3 vertical splits, so 1, 2, 3. Slot 0 is actually middle, so negative values are the left and positive values are the right. So slot -1 would put, if this was bottom, it'd put it in the left. Slot 0 would put it in the middle, and slot 1 would put it on the right. And then what we have is window width, and so this is the actual width of the window, which for the left sidebar was 20%, so that's like a fifth of the screen. You can add window parameters, and it's possible to set the sidebars so that you can't switch to them. So in the example I was showing you, we were switching to the side panel using Control X O and back and forth. There's actually a way to disable that if you want, so that you can have windows that just basically display information that you don't interact with in a sidebar that you can toggle on and off. So it might be like help buffer or messages or something like that. But for my case, what I wanted was a window that I could actually switch to and interact with. So what we've got down here is the mode line format. So what we're doing basically is saying mode line format dot, and in here just double quotes with nothing inside them, and what that does is basically sets the mode line to display nothing in that buffer. If you set it to mode line format nil, it will display something. It will display a bit of text. I can't remember what it was. So setting mode line format dot, and then double, what do you call it, quotes with nothing in them, will actually hide the mode line completely. So what I'm going to do is come across to the diode. Okay. Yeah, so this is the keyboard shortcut that I defined: global set key, XKB, Control X, WW, my window diode VC root left, which is the function at the bottom of the page, and that will basically toggle the sidebar on and off. So that opens the sidebar, and if I do Control X WS, it toggles it off like that. So let me come through the diode section and see if I can find the diode. This is for emacs 29. It has a new option, diode free space nil, and what that does is it basically disables the little bit of text that comes up. So as you can see here, normally what happens is it will say, if I was to move that across, it would normally say free space available, but we can hide that, and we can hide the mode line down here just so that it's cleaner. The other interesting thing is that I found is, for some reason, when I'm toggling this on here, it actually does show even though this isn't actually a Git repository, it does actually show the correct directory. So this is the directory that this file is in, so it's not actually showing the default diode directory of home. I'm not sure why that is. I think there's any Git repositories in Elpa or anything like that. I'm not sure. So that's how we can hide the free space, and we have the keyboard shortcut back up here. Global set key, XKB, Control X, WW. That runs the function down here. So that's the function from prot. So this is the actual page I got some of the code from, but he's got a video up there and I couldn't find the actual code, so I copied it from the video. But the command that we're actually running is window toggle side window. So if I do mx window toggle side windows, you'll see that toggles the side window on and off. And that's bound to Control XWS. And when we're in the diode buffer, you can get the files to open in the main window by either pressing Shift Return or G capital O. So if I come across here and then switch across with Control X O, so I can press either G capital O and that will open the file in this window over here, or the easier one is just pressing Shift Return to open the file in the main window. So it's quite useful because you might be sort of working on stuff in the main area and have some files in the same directory, so it makes it really easy to just toggle the sidebar on and off. Oh, that's weird. Okay, why did it do that? Okay. Right, let's try that again. Okay, there we go. So makes it really easy just to come across, open up stuff in diode, find a file, open it in here. And again, it's easy to toggle the sidebar on and off with Control X WS. So if I switch across to this buffer here and press toggle the sidebar on and off, you'll see it's actually toggling, it said, to the previous location. So when you switch to a new location, just run Control X WW, and it will pick the if it's in a Git repository, it will pick the correct directory in the side here. So that's basically all there is to it, and this was the video that I pinched some of his code from. And if you search for Emacs side windows, there's a good video by System Crafters explaining a lot of the functions that you can actually use. And this was prots, a bit of code accompanying that video, but the code for toggling for the sidebar wasn't actually in here. This is for how you can set various windows to always have a particular position, like let's see, the warnings, the compile log, the messages. What you can see here is you've got all these different things like side top slot -1, side top slot 0. So again, the slots work from negative to positive. Negative things are sort of on the left, 0 will be in the middle, and positive will be on the right. So you've got lots of options for actually sort of positioning stuff, and you've got these window parameters. I think it's no other window -T. That's the thing that stops you from switching with Control XO, but I didn't want that. So basically that's something I've removed. And this modeline format .none, what I did was I actually changed that so that it was just double quotes with nothing inside it, because I found for some reason this didn't work for me. But these are some of the sort of bits of code that I was just sort of looking at and going through and sort of pinching. So he's got a load of code in here that I'll put a link to. But there's some good stuff on this on Emacs side window. If you do a search for Emacs side window, there was another link I found down here, Omar Polo, which had a sort of similar bit of code, but it was actually giving me some errors for this particular sort of bit of code down here. But what this bit of code does is it actually does something similar, but it puts the current buffer in a sidebar window, and I didn't really find any use for that, but it just gave me an idea of how you could do the diode thing. So there's only a couple of things to set up. The block of code down here, and again you can actually adjust this. So if you wanted a different window width, so if I put this to, say, let's do it to 30, and can I evaluate that? Is that bigger now? And you can see now, for some reason, it's actually coming up with the mode line here. So let's, if I need to do that, and let's try that again. Yeah, okay, there we go. So after loading my init again, init.el again, you can see changing to 30% is given a much bigger sidebar down here. And again, you can see this is still empty. So let's put that back to 20. Maybe I need to evaluate it again. There we go. So that's back to 1/5 of the screen. So we can now again switch between these like that. Early in it. So again, shift return. But for some reason, as I said, sometimes it opens full screen. It may be that when you've got nothing displayed in the buffer, no other document, it displays it full screen. But if there's something in there, it displays it split screen. Does that make sense? So let's check that out. So what I'll do is do it in here. Yeah. So oops, hang on. Shift return. You can see it's opening it full screen in there. But I think if I had something in there already, it would open it up in a split. So let's try that. Through. And shift return. Yeah. Okay. So that's right. So if you've got nothing in the actual buffer on the right, and you open a file by pressing shift return, it will open it full screen as a single element in that window. But if you've got something open in there, it will open it as a split, if that makes sense. So it's really nice. You can just toggle it on and off, and it's a really convenient keyboard shortcut. Control X WS to toggle the sidebar on and off, and Control X WW to open it. So Control X WW will open it. Control X WS. So it's exactly the same sort of finger motion. So it's really easy to remember. It's really convenient. You don't have to stretch your fingers a lot, and it's really useful when you're working with Git repositories. So Git projects fmpeg. So this isn't exactly a great example because it's actually a dired sort of listing by default anyway. But if I come out into a so it's really handy because especially when you're working with Git repositories, you can just toggle the sidebar open and then sort of see the stuff and then close it. And see I've got loads of buffers open there now. Hang on. Notice this weird thing. Sometimes it actually jumps when I'm when I'm trying to delete stuff like that. I'm going to go back into there. So the 3 bits were the setting the keyboard shortcut here for the function, and the next thing was in dired. Yep, hiding the free space. So this is for emacs 29. Set q dired free space nil, and that will hide the free space available message that comes up in dired. And the reason I want to hide that is because otherwise it will actually sort of display sort of long bit of text along here, which we don't want. And again, down the bottom, what we've got here is the command to toggle the side window. So mx window toggle side windows. So if you have multiple side windows set up for stuff, it will actually toggle them all at once. So you can actually create side windows on the left, the top, the right, the bottom, create multiple splits. And using Control X WS to run window toggle side windows will actually toggle them all on and off at the same time, and it actually remembers the state. So to open the files in the dired buffer, we got shift return or G capital O. Again, this was the sort of block of code I pinched from prot, and I sort of changed a couple of little bits. But it'd be nice to be able to somehow get the directory from vterm. I haven't quite figured out how to do that, but it'd be nice to be able to open vterm, a directory, dired directory, to the same directory as vterm. You can actually do the there is actually a reverse where if you've got something open in dired, you can actually open vterm and it will open it to the correct directory. So let me see if I can do this. Now if I go to, say, documents and I run Control-C TV, you can see it's actually opening vterm to that directory, and that's some code that you actually put in your ZSH file. So you can do it the reverse. You can open a vterm directory to the same directory that was open in dired, but I want to do the other way around, open the dired directory to the same one as vterm. So that's something on the to-do list, but it's just a nice sort of feature to have. Easy keyboard shortcut to remember, just to toggle stuff open, and it's a bit more convenient than actually was it yeah, of course you can split windows like this, and by default they're going to split evenly, but having a nice little side window for diode is quite handy like that. I don't know why it's coming up again here. Let me just quit Emacs and restart it and see if we get rid of that behavior. Yeah, okay, so it's just because I've been mucking around with it, but it just makes it nice, and having a nice clean sidebar here for diode that you can easily switch back and forth between. You might be working on stuff and you're like, okay, I want to delete these. So touch 1, 2. Of course, you could delete them on the command line, but it just makes it nice to have a split like this for working with stuff with the terminal and a file browser. So there's lots of possibilities with this, and as I said, you can create stuff to come up on the right as well. So I could change this to side right. Let me just load the forest as well. So now you can see it's coming up on the right. Or I could change it to be at the bottom. I need to load the file again. Oh. Where's it gone to? Oh yeah, there we go. It's down here, yeah. So you can see it's come up at the bottom down here. And I'll put that back to left. And there we go. Nice and clean, no extra text here, no mode line. And it's just something that's quite handy. And yeah, have a look at Prot's video here. Emacs window rules and parameters, and this is about 2 years ago. And hey Emacs, don't move my windows, customizing display buffers behavior. So there's a couple from System Crafters which tend to be a bit longer videos and where we go through all the options. And this is prots video showing.
Hello everyone,
if I just come across and mute this, put that full screen. Just wait for the text going to come into focus yet. Okay, there we go. So let me just see if I can show you. I was just trying to pick out a bit where he's actually. So basically, what he's got down here is setting it so that particular buffers always open down here. So as I was saying, you've got the different slots. So -1, 0, and then 1. So you can actually have help and display buffers automatically always open in a particular position on the screen. So if that's something you want to do, you can actually set it up so that you can have your terminal always open down here, help buffer down here, and then you can toggle the windows on and off to show and display them. So you can be working on your main document here and then just toggle these windows on and off as you need them, or you can actually have them visible to show information that's related to your main buffer. So if you're working on something here, you can actually have it always showing your messages buffer down here and stuff. And you can actually set it so that you can't switch to the buffers. So in my case, what I was doing, I was showing you something you would interact with, the diode buffer in the left-hand side. But in some of these cases, you don't want to actually have a buffer that you can interact with. You're just using it to actually display information related to what you're doing in the main window here. So you can actually set it so that you can't switch to these buffers with Control X 0 if they're just buffers that you want to display that are related to what you're doing. Could be something like showing the progress of something that's being compiled, or error messages or something like that. So definitely have a look at Prot's video. He's got a lot of good stuff there, and I think this was the actual link to what he's going on about there. So what you've got down here is you can usually actually sort of skip these sort of some of these first bits. This is where he's sort of defining a function, but you can see these sort of blocks down here. This is for the asynchronous shell command. You've got stuff for fly make, the messages, backtrace, and as you can see here, you can actually set the window height, the side, top, the slots. So you've got lots of options that you can actually set down here, and the one you want to have a look at is window parameters. So if I have a search for Emacs side window, I think there's a section down here. Okay, so the site wasn't coming up for me the other day, but if you go through these sections, displaying buffers in side windows options and functions, and frame layout with side windows. So this is basically describing the sides. You've got left, top, right, and bottom. You've got the slots where a value of 0 is in the middle, negative is on the left, and positive is on the right. You also have a thing called dedicated windows, so that you can actually have a buffer that's dedicated to a particular window that can't be switched. Then you've got some other options down here that I haven't actually sort of gone through. And then finally, on this section here, this is showing you how you can create a custom layout like this with the main window. You might have diode here, tags, shell completions, help, and it's got a bit of example code down here. So this is how you can sort of display the buffer list in the top the window height, you've got these options like fit to buffer, preserve size. So have a look through this section as well here, and yeah, this was another one I was having a look at, but for some reason I was actually having issues trying to get some of these bits of code to run. So that's why I pinched some of Prot's code and just fiddled around with it to get what I wanted, which was basically to be able to have a keyboard shortcut that toggles the windows. Will actually show the dyad buffer there, and again, why is it doing that? Just, I think it's just because I've been fiddling around with it. It's just showing the mode line again. Let's just make sure it's not. Oops. So Control X WW. Control X WS to hide it. And again, if I come across, hang on, the Git repository. Oh, you fucker. I'm not sure what's gone wrong there, why it's mangled my .files. Hang on. Okay, so it just mangled my .files. Oh no, it's got the bookmarks open. I had a sudden panic where I thought I'd overwritten my .files. But when we got it in this mode, if we'd already got this open, do the default one here. If I was to show the sidebar, you can see it's not picking up the correct directory. So we just run Control X WW, and it's going to show the directory there. And by default, I have it set to hide .files, and I can show them with Control X meta O. And again, just means you can come across here and then open these files individually by pressing Shift Return and having them open. We can get into this one here. And so remember, the behavior is when you open it from the dyad buffer on the left with Shift Return, if there's nothing in here, it will open full screen. If there's something already in this window, it will open in a split. So that's just the behavior, and you can switch across here and you can kill this side buffer just like you would any other by doing Control X K to kill it. So I'll put links to all this under the video, and I hope that helps sort of make things a bit more useful using Emacs. And again, this is coming back for some reason, so maybe I've got some issue why that's not showing. That's weird. Just see if I had any buffers open. Now, let's just kill some of these buffers and see if I get the same thing happen again. Okay, so maybe it's just had something where the buffers weren't killed, or things always go wrong in a demo. But as you can see, we've got that hidden. We've got the free space available hidden. We can switch to this back and forth, use all our dyad commands, and then hide the buffer and get back to the main window there. So I'll put links to all this under the video, and that's all for now.